Okay, we are live now.
Good evening to all our viewers in India, and a very good morning to all our friends joining us from the US. So, first up, I would like to thank Global Critical Thinkers for organizing this hangout. This is the fourth in the series of many hangouts, and we've been very, very fortunate that in the past, General V.K. Singh, Professor Subramanian Swamy have given us this time to interact with them. So why this hangout? First up, this hangout is an outcome of what has happened in the recent elections. BJP, under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji, crossed the magic figure of 272, and what that has done is that it has created a lot of expectations. This entire election was fought on the issue of development, the plank of development. And the question is, which is in everyone's mind today, whether or not BJP will be able to perform on this. And thus, we got two stalwarts from BJP, General V.K. Singh, who's won by a record margin of 5.67 lakh votes from Ghaziabad, and Professor Subramanian Swamy, who needs no introduction, a leader from BJP and noted economist, to understand from them what the BJP is looking to do and what their approach is going to be in order to achieve this development. So, kicking off, I have with me also Ajay. Ajay, who's a recent graduate from the booth at Chicago University. He's been in the financial services industry in Chicago and is now working as an activist, also as an activist, sorry, with BJP. We have Shantanu with us. Shantanu is an alumni of XLRI and IDS at the University of Sussex. Policy expert specialized in education policy and local governance, and has also worked a lot on election campaigns across the country. So I'll start off with the first question to Professor Swamy. So as we are witnessing the winds of change, let me begin by asking you, what in your mind are the top 3 priority issues that the government would like to address to kickstart the process of development?
Well, to kickstart the process of development, I think we have to ensure that the rate of savings goes up substantially. And I think that the process should begin by tax reforms which incentivizes savings. At the present time, the tax is oppressive. Either it makes people not save, or the people to avoid paying these taxes, and therefore it goes into black money, and black money either goes abroad or it goes into luxurious consumption within the country. So I think a major tax reform which can be done without parliamentary approval, that is, you don't need a vote in the house of both houses, it can be done and announced in Parliament immediately, or it could be a part of the budget which is to come in July. Second thing is, we need to set up a infrastructure corporation or a ministry for infrastructure, and I think that's probably being planned, and we should have a dynamic minister who has had past experience in this, and there are 1 or 2 names very clearly whom I can't mention on this program, but people who have shown that roads can be built in a quick way. During the NDA period, we built 4,500 kilometers of national highways every year, whereas in Congress period or the UPA period, they were only able to manage 850 kilometers per year. So we want to once the infrastructure, not only in highways, but in power, in air communication, air travel, many of these areas, and these have to be brought, because we want the market to become a united Indian market, and for that one of the things we need is infrastructure. The third thing is, I think we need an innovation focus in our development planning, and that is to think of new methods of doing things and new alternatives for which we are suffering today uh, and depending on imports. For instance, take crude oil. We have to import about 86% of what we need from abroad. We must now start exploring how within the next 2 years we can bring in, for automobiles at least, a hydrogen fuel cells, for large buses, public transport buses, CNG, that is the gas driven. So alternative sources of energy need to be discussed. And then these three things would definitely kickstart it. But most of all, we want the sense of optimism to come. And the sense of optimism will come if the government is perceived as people friendly. What I by means that, we are not going to harass any person because he's not in favor of us, or he's not giving us money. I think this is probably, perhaps after 1970, it's going to be the most honest government we have had. And consequently, we have to generate confidence that merit is going to count. And that would, in my opinion, itself be a accelerator for our growth.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. In the series of questions that we want to ask you on behalf of our audience, I would like to hear from you. I know you've always been a proponent of sort of in India lowering the interest rates and promoting savings, etc. On the other hand, our Reserve Bank governor is looking for raising the interest rates as a means to curb inflation. So that's monetary policy action. Please help our audience understand what are the other measures, whether it's fiscal policy or otherwise, that you are planning to take in order to curb inflation.
Well, in my opinion, inflation is largely due to ill thought of policy of forward trading in agricultural commodities. I think we are not concerned so much about inflation in other matters, but inflation for essential commodities for the consumer. That's. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
The inflation is really for rice, wheat, sugar, pulses, and all, and these are really been amenable now to false shortages because of forward trading. And I think the forward trading in food grains and other agricultural commodities has to be abolished, and that itself would take care of a lot of the inflation. I don't think the inflation is a supply short generated phenomenon. It's more an artificial shortage that is created. And that is why the Reserve Bank approach to the problem is stupid, because he's talking about controlling inflation and he's claiming credit for it. Actually, what he has done is he's killed the patient in order to bring down the temperature of the body, and that is no credit at all. I would rather see that the supply is smoothly moved around the country, and all the impediments to that would have to be removed.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. I'm going to call on Shantanu to ask the next question of Dr. Swamy. Go ahead, Shantanu.
Very good evening, Dr. Swamy.
Yes, good evening.
Dr. Swamy, I want to ask you that during the UPA regime, India growth story is very consumption-led, if I should say, very subsidy-led. We are sitting on a huge subsidy bomb of a very right-based policies, be it Manrega, be it right to education, which are very input-led. So how can we transform this very subsidy-led economy to a very investment growth-led story?
You know, the thing is that the Gujarat model suggests that farmers are willing to give up subsidies, for example, if they are assured of quality and consistency in the provision of inputs. For instance, agricultural subsidies has been done away. Excuse me, electricity subsidies have been done away in Gujarat because Narendra Modi said, "I'll guarantee you an 18-hour uninterrupted supply with a voltage fluctuation of plus minus 5." And the farmer said, in that case, we don't need subsidy. Of course, the prices he's charging farmers is lower than the prices he's charging industry, but that's not subsidy. And consequently, that has been done. The second thing I would say is that there are areas where you could subsidize the poor people through a coupon system rather than building this infrastructure of ration shops and ration cards and so on. And the coupon system was tried in the United States in the Depression. It was tried in Philippines, both countries very successfully. And I think India should move out of that kind of subsidization process. Ironically, although we are being forced to give subsidy within the country for agriculture, even today we are the cheapest producers of agriculture commodities internationally. And therefore, my opinion is that we should give high priority to the Doha rounds to be completed so that our farmers can start exporting and earning a higher price abroad rather than being subsidized within the country. So I don't think that this is a cancer that we can't take care of, this subsidy cancer. We can, and it can be phased out in 3 years, in my opinion.
Sir, we had heard about there are news in the media where people are talking about potentially the rupee rising up in value, and it already is. We've seen that movement. Do you see that as a positive, negative? Where do you see it resting? And do you see rupee being internationalized as one of the policies that BJP will undertake, as the Reserve Bank governor had once said when he came in, although none of that has really happened yet?
Well, if the Reserve Bank governor, President Reserve Bank governor said it, then I certainly am not interested because, he's a Chicago free enterpriser, and in India we have market failures, and therefore I can't have free enterprise. I got to, intervene in the market to set things right. Now, as far as the rupee rate is concerned, it was artificially driven up by forward trading or what is called a short selling in Singapore and Dubai. It was done by one place by a son of a very important person, and I have no hesitation in naming his son of the then finance minister, and the other was the son-in-law of the ruling family, and they were responsible for this sharp rise up to, I think, 68 rupees to a dollar. Now it's been coming down now consistently. And I think 40 is the equilibrium rate for the present. And I think in the long run, the rupee will fall, and it will. I mean, the rupee rate will appreciate, and the dollar would fall. And I foresee at the end of 5 years a rate of 25, between 20 and 25 rupees to a dollar.
That's great. Some of my NRI friends here may not be happy with that, who remit back.
No, but they'll start earning more by then, and they will probably get higher rates of return if they invest their money in India.
Sir, on that note, are there any specific policy actions that you foresee the government taking in order to encourage the investment from the NRI Indian diaspora and aid in India's development?
Well, these are open, and we have now made the NRIs almost equal to Indian citizens, except they can't vote. And I certainly think that the NRIs were to bring in new technologies, alternative technologies, that sort of thing, desalination of seawater. India is vast open opportunity, and if any NRI faces a harassment, then I think our government would like to intervene. But since we are going to have a market economy, I don't think we need to make a special provision for the NRI.
Sure, sir. I'm going to call Saurabh. Can you hear me? If you have any questions, please go ahead and you can put that across to Dr. Swamy before we start going into audience questions.
Sure, sure. Hello, Dr. Swamy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, great. First of all, sir, I feel we are really lucky, and it's a long. We have been dreaming about this day, and since you're here now, so I personally feel myself lucky. I personally come from an IT background, but having spent almost 10 years in IT, I would I'm now looking forward to something in manufacturing industry. So I have some question today, particularly for manufacturing. I personally see that it has been a bedrock of success for all the economies and have rapidly developed. So isn't the doldrums in India particularly, how can we give a boost to our manufacturing sector, particularly in India now, with having uh, NDA now, looking forward in future now?
Well, I think you see this would be something the cabinet would have to go into. I can give you my view, and whatever influence I have that I can bring to bear will be for that. And that is this: that the manufacturing sector has suffered from three kinds of problems. One is that the socialist trade laws, the trade union laws, has frightened most of the manufacturers to opt for capital intensive technologies to reduce the amount of labor to be used. This is totally against the comparative advantage of India, which is, is a labor surplus economy, and it's got a low wage, high skilled labor too. So we got to correct that without creating any uncertainty about job certainty. I would say, for example, industrialists or a corporate want to tell an employee, please go home, and we will send you your monthly checks for the next 3 years without interruption by mail. And at the end, by these 3 years or earlier, you find a job, then we'll terminate this payment. I think the employees would accept that, and the industrialists would also be ready to pay that price. And in fact, as far back as 1991, as Commerce Minister had assembled some leading industrialists and posed this question, and they said yes, because we got a lot of troublemakers, and we like to send them home. We can't fire them, but if we can send them home, then that will be as good. So this kind of compassionate labor changes we'd like to do. The second thing is, I think these interest rates are much too high for industries going in for innovative technologies, and this needs to be has to be somehow we have to find a way by which capital is abundantly available to our industry at much lower interest rates. The third thing is there are industries which are very good for labor, semi-skilled labor, and that is textiles, food processing, that kind of thing. So these are the three areas I would advocate. I would advocate for doing something about.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Shantanu wants to ask another question, so I'm going to go back to Shantanu. And before you ask the question, for our global audience, General V.K. Singh is going to be joining shortly. He is running a little bit behind because of some unforeseen situation, but he will be with us in about 5-10 minutes. So Shantanu, over to you.
Dr. Swamy, one more question. So your good friend, Mr. Chidambaram, and even the ex-Prime Minister now, Manmohan Singh. So yeah, as they're in the hat of taxmen, they were quite seemed to be bullying the businessmen in the industry. And Vodafone retrospective tax case is one of them. So what's your thought on, so you elaborate a little bit on that. What's your thought on two things? One, on the complexity of tax system in India, and second, on the higher percentages side also, and the track record in last 10 years on the tax side.
Well, as far as this retrospective tax thing is because they lost a Supreme Court case. I can't say anything just now because there are pluses and minuses which I have not weighed, and I'd like to go into it. Whether this would enable companies to launder their money by or escape taxation. My mind is not made up, and I'm not going to say what it is. I've got to study this after looking at the files. If I am finance minister, or if I'm not, I would have to I'll have to study it some other way. But I think there's no doubt that our taxes are a great harassment, and I would like to make it compliant for savers. If you save your money, then that entire amount, the save in recognizable form, that is shares, time deposits, etc. I'd like to see that entire amount be made tax exempt. That is, you deduct it from your income, and then the taxes are applied in the on the residual, and the tax should be a simple one, and not so many exemptions here and there. I mean, our tax system is like a jungle and needs to be simplified, and then the discretionary powers of income tax inspectors should be reduced. I certainly would say that the easiest way to do it is to abolish personal income tax and tell people, warn people that whatever money now you are saving, please put it in savings. Otherwise, I'll have to go back to start taxing you. That would be the way to raise the rate of savings and investment in the country.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. I want to welcome General V.K. Singh, who just joined us. Thank you, General Singh, for joining us.
Thank you.
And many congratulations to you on behalf of our global audience once again for your historic and thumping victory next to almost Mr. Modi's himself.
Thank you.
Maybe if all the votes had been counted, you would have broken the world record, perhaps.
So I want to give it back to Mabel to take the discussion forward. Mabel, please go ahead.
Good evening, General. So, sir, jumping right into the core questions, because people have been asking you a lot of questions. So, so the first question for you is, Ghaziabad was a seat that even BJP had very little hope from, to be very honest. What is it that you did differently on the seat to win by over 5 lakh votes? And that's a margin which is unheard of in UP. So what is it that you did differently, sir, on the seat?
I couldn't get your question properly.
Sir, I'm saying Ghaziabad was a seat that even BJP had very little hope from. What is it that you did differently to win by this huge a margin?
See, there were two things that mattered. One was it was the name of Modi ji in terms of what we said, that he is available to lead a new government that will come in. And his capability had already been proven in Gujarat for 15 years. And the second thing that we put across to people was, this vote is for a change and for the country. If you love your country and you want a change, please come out and vote for the country. And I think this being said by somebody who is known to accomplish things made the difference.
So I'll give it to Shantanu. I think he had a couple of questions for you. And Shantanu, the floor is yours.
Good evening, General Singh.
Good evening.
Sir, my first question is that you have been supporting indigenization of arms and defense technology. And Mr. Modi has also talked about that in some of his speeches. So, what are the steps that you want to take? And if you are the defense minister, as many of us want you to be, what are the steps one should take towards that?
I'll not talk that I was a defense minister or something. I'll talk like a common man who probably knows how the procurement and other system has been. The first thing that is needed is to reinvigorate your ordnance factories. It is a huge asset, but unfortunately, at some point of time, we haven't paid the due attention and not made them, uh, in a sense, efficient. You know, uh, their efficiency has gone down. They were treated more as a social welfare department rather than something which will be profitable. The second is, how do you get cutting edge technology? The only way you can get it is to leverage your private sector so that it can enter into joint ventures, which allows you to get cutting edge technology, and therefore you change the rules, procedures, the instructions, the system becomes a better business model. Today it is not a better business model. And you have to allow what is being made in India with foreign technology. If that partner of yours wants to export that item to some other country, you have to allow it to be exported, because then only they will be able to part with this technology. So your manufacturing sector, in terms of the ordnance factories, in terms of the private sector, both have to coalesce to produce the type of things that you are looking for.
So if I hear you right, you're saying that while we need to promote the industry internally, we also need to allow it to produce and then export the goods which it makes, so that as an industry it can thrive better.
Yeah, it does. You know, we have to take lessons from everywhere. Norinco, China, has become a big exporter because it allowed things to go out so that it could do product improvement for its own use. Today, if they can manufacture a stealth jet, I'm quite sure India can do so, had we ensured that our R&D, our manufacturing sector, and the cutting edge technology that was coming in through joint ventures coalesced together.
Shantanu,
General Sahab, yeah. General Sahib, just a small point on the same point. As we hear that a huge portion of America's economy is on arms manufacturing, and you have a lot of theories on Ford Foundation for working on towards that. So, how much do you think as the play off if we start developing our own arms? Will we end up spoiling our international relationship with America and other countries just supplying arms to us?
See, in any business, you have to look at what profits will be made by the person who gives you technology and you as the user of that technology. Somewhere, a certain amount of trade-off has to be there in terms of the profits. It cannot be that the entire profit goes to the other side. But if the business model is right, you can leverage it. If today Tata's can turn around the Jaguar plant in UK, I'm quite sure they would be able to get certain technology from there which will improve their own vehicles here. It has to be done in that manner.
Mehul, can I come in?
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dr. Swamy, since we are on the subject of defense-related exports and things of that nature, my question to Dr. Swamy is, sir, what are your views on allowing FDI in the defense sector, or for that matter, even marketing our defense production abroad?
Well, I think there are areas of defense which could be earmarked as something that we must do ourselves, even if it is more expensive than importing it from abroad. But then there are also areas where we can afford to have FDI or even outright purchase from abroad. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rule that defense is taboo and you can't do it. But there are capabilities which must be indigenous, and there cannot be a compromise.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Another one
I
question
think
that sorry, go ahead, Mehul.
go ahead, Raju, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna follow this up with another area of concern that I see. We've seen consumption-led growth in the past, and I'm wondering, and employment has been a concern. Narendra Modi, throughout his campaign, has been very vocal about the need to create employment, and since India has such a huge demographic dividend, can you tell us few broad ideas and maybe top 3 or 5 strokes that the India government would take to ensure an employment generation for the youth and growth driven from that?
You see, youth can be divided into two parts: those who are highly skilled, which is a small proportion, and those who are semi-skilled. You'll find them in intermediate towns. You'll find them in agriculture and so on. Now, the kind of work that uh, the semi-skilled workers of the youth force is really in industries like food processing, textiles, and that kind of thing, machine tools, so on. But that were the sectors which we have done very badly in. Take the textiles. Textiles has been literally ruined in Bombay or Mumbai by trade unionism. And food processing has been ruined because the nexus between the agriculturists and industry has been very weak. It's been exploitative, and therefore that industry has to grow. So we cannot have a single strategy. We have to make this distinction that somehow the semi-skilled people are to find a place. Now there's a 61 or 62% of our labor force is today in the rural areas. Now young educated people from the rural areas don't want to work there. They want to come to the city. So we have to find a methodology by which they're able to start their own small industries. And those small industries and the medium scale industries there should be a network. Professor Vaidyanathan of IIM has written a wonderful book on how really the industrial story of India is not a few big corporates, but the small and medium enterprises. And this is the one that is starved of capital, have to pay a very high rates of interest, and we got to find how they can be financed.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. So now that we're on the topic of food, etc., Saurabh has a very interesting question for General V.K. Singh. So Saurabh, over to you.
Right. Right. First of all, thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate General V.K. Singh for a historical win, not only for his party, for himself as well. And that's a great margin. And because thinking about this, the fact that you came to Ghaziabad, because I come from Delhi and NCR area, and you came to Ghaziabad hardly 15 days before the polling date, and that's a really historic win, sir. It's really congratulations for that. I had this because since I've been following you, I've been following a lot of the happenings in terms of our army, and so I had this question where I thought that maybe I'll ask you this. During your time when you were Chief of Army Staff, you had initiated the concept of parity in food distribution between officers and other rank people in Army. Why has that not taken forward now? So I just had this. I thought maybe you would be the best person to ask.
Saurabh, firstly, thank you very much for congratulating me. It's the win of the people, and they are the ones who have reposed so much of trust in me. Having said this, let me answer your question. I had initiated things on parity of various things between the officers and men. It took me about 7-8 months to get the rations come up to a level where they were almost at par. It is very interesting that till then the rations of the officers were different from the rations of the men, and I somehow couldn't understand that. Why? It took time because the bureaucracy works in a different manner. And the first question that came up was, please find out the calorific value of what the Jawan eats, what the officer eats, and why should you want to change all that? Uh, it took time, but that has come. Today the rations are much better. But there are a lot of other things which need to be done, which should take us out of colonial era things which are happening to what a modern nation must have as part of its army. And some of the suggestions are already resting with the ministry, which also included, the famous or the infamous, the Sahayak system as it is called. I had suggested certain changes which would have made it that much better. The way the uniforms are, how they are made, how they fit people. There are so many things which concern officers and men. And I think in any modern day nation, any democracy, fair amount of parity must be brought in so that everybody feels alike and they are able to put in that much better effort. They are able.
Thank you, sir. So, Shantanu has a question for Professor Swamy. Shantanu, go ahead.
Dr. Swamy, though the elections are over now, but this election exercise was so phenomenal that's very difficult to not ask questions on elections. So, what do you want to attribute this great success of BJP and NDA to? Because currently, a lot of people are attributing it to Modi's phenomenal campaigning, or you will get to the bad governance of UPA. Some say it's social media. Some say it's the first time after 1977 RSS came full board. Some say is a major contribution of Baba Ramdev and such groups. So, what as per you is the reason behind this phenomenon?
Well, I think all that you have said has a share in it. Let me start from the others, from the bottom of the list that you mentioned. Baba Ramdev definitely made a major contribution in his overt mobilization of the rural masses and the urban lower middle class, and he spoke their language, and since he was targeted, it became a bigger message than it would have been otherwise. Then there were sophisticated preachers too, like Swami Dayanand Saraswati and Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and others. Generally, for the first time, we have seen the spiritual community come out openly on all sides. The Christian fathers also played a major role in getting some of the Congress people elected. For instance, Shashi Tharoor's abject surrender before the Christian fathers, the Christian bishops and so on, that got him the major vote, and which was the vote which he got to win the election. So that is one aspect. The second is no doubt that the UPA's malperformance, particularly both a clandestine support from the UPA as well as the opposition onslaught, which together demolished the image of Manmohan Singh. I mean, people just didn't regard any of his other attributes as worthy of notice. And he, of course, was what he was because he was spineless and he obeyed the orders of Sonia Gandhi. And so the UPA's utter non-performance, the corruption of the UPA, which was now established in courts of law, and the foregone revenue because of this corruption, all this was also a contributory factor. But I would say three factors are major contributors, and of that, certainly the personality of Mr. Narendra Modi. He created a magic that he would be a decisive leader who has a clear idea of what to do, and that he would change the development paradigm. And he had a Gujarat experiment which everybody acknowledged was a superior performance than anywhere else. Not in one or two particular indicators, but in the overall context of being able to do business without too much hassle, the ability to get electricity without breakdowns, the ability to travel on smooth roads. All these things, even people who travel to Gujarat carried these tales back. So this I would say is a outstanding contribution. I would say very, very major. But any leader, however popular, requires a machinery to carry the voters to the booth, or rather motivate the voters to go to the booth. Ambedkar was a very, very popular figure, but he fought 3 Lok Sabha elections in a row, and he lost his deposit in all 3 of them. So why was that? Because he didn't have the kind of organization which Gandhiji had built up for the Congress. So I think you see that part, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh deserves full credit, that they their whole cadre was also happy to do it, and it didn't require any orders from the top brass. The Swayamsevaks went everywhere, and I would say General Singh would also acknowledge that they played a major role in mobilizing voters in his constituency. And when Mr. Singh went, General Singh went to the constituency, people had written him off, and he transformed that into the most spectacular victory, and that is because of his stout-heartedness, and then we're getting the backing of the RSS. So these are the factors, and I think there was also a deep sense of national hurt, and was converted into nationalism, and it united the castes, whether it's the scheduled caste or the Kurmis or the Yadavas, right all the way up to the Brahmins. It amongst the Hindu community created a unity which we had not seen for a long time. General Singh, would you agree with this?
I agree totally with you, Dr. Swamy, and it is a combination of all these factors. It is how the masses were educated, mobilized, and along with the party cadre, who were then able to ferry them or to get them to the booths. I think that made a difference.
Thank you, sir. So moving back from elections to development, I'm an environmental engineer, and I have a question for the two of you. Modi ji up from Varanasi. He's been talking about cleaning the Ganga. So I would want both of your thoughts that on how whether the cleanup of the Ganga is possible. It's been 30 years now, practically, because it started in 1985. And we've been pumping in money into the river through the Gap 1, Gap 2, now the National Ganga River Basin Authority. I'm just wondering, is there a way to clean the river? So I can take Dr. Swamy first and then General Singh.
Well, General Singh is a person who has been much more in the operations of such things, so he should answer in detail. But I would say, I don't care what happened in the past. It's got to happen in the 5 years that we are in power. This is a disgrace. Ganga water has been celebrated throughout the centuries as something special. Even during the British time, they used to take buckets and have them exported because it was a different kind of water which made a difference to the digestive system. You can read of it. It's not a well publicized thing, but this is what it is. So Ganga has to be saved. Now, part of it, Ashok Singhal and myself assisting him did it when we stopped all the hydroelectric projects which are being started from Gangotri down to Haridwar, and that has enabled Ganga water to flow more freely Otherwise, Ganga water would have disappeared by the time it reached Haridwar. Now we have to see, all we have to do is to see the tanneries and the sewages and so on. They are processed in an alternative way. Ganga can be clean and it must be clean.
General Singh, your views.
Uh, See, our biggest problem has been that we have made authorities, we have made commissions, we have made uh, got people together, had endless meetings, but nobody has practically put these to ground. All our rivers can be cleaned, and I'm not just talking of Ganga. There was a project that was a pilot was run in Ghaziabad in an area where there was a small lake, and they ensured that out of that filth that was flowing, they were able to clean the water to drinking water level. It was a pilot project. Somebody should have taken it forward. It was done quite some time back. All that you need to do is to create a dedicated task force, which, like what we have had as the territorial army battalions ecology, you have a territorial army battalion river for the environment, along with people of that area. Till the time people of that area do not have stakes in it, you cannot do anything, because it is they who have to ensure that the filth does not flow into the river. The other thing that has to be done is to reverse what the, some of these bigoted colonial masters did to us. They said, oh, the Hindus think this river is pure, put all the sewerages into the river. No, we have to stop it. And we have to stop it in a manner in which we have people who ensure that nothing flows down into the river which is filthy. You will have clean water. I can assure you, 5 years, we can clean up all the rivers in the country.
Well, as an environmental engineer, I am looking forward to the good times ahead. So now I'll go back to the questions which are coming through our audience on Twitter and Google. So
I'll have to quit in 5 minutes because it's 7 o'clock. I mean,
okay, sir. So we'll just shoot the first question.
General Singh is a great speaker, so he's there, so he'll take care.
Okay, sir. So I'll just take one question for you. Ajay, if you can come in and pose the first question to Professor Saab before he leaves.
Sure. Dr. Swamy, there's a question coming in from Gaurav Sharma. He's from MP. He's asking about specifically center-state relations. There's an area of Chhattisgarh which is facing Maoist violence for years, and there has been a conflict in the sense that BJP ruled the state, but the center was ruled by UPA. So what are the specific steps that you think the government should take to improve center-state relations and achieve better harmonization and development?
I don't think that's a serious problem. I mean, the media, maybe it's good to jockey and pretend as if you're a very strong leader of the state. But the fact is that the present situation, that no state can run its government unless it gets a substantial transfer of funds from the center. So if the center improves the economic development and it has more resources to marshal out, states will comply. And this matter, once in a debate that took place in television, where the Chief Minister of Orissa, who's publicly thoroughly opposed to the now Prime Minister to be day after tomorrow, Mr. Narendra Modi, he said that when he was declared the winner, he said, well, for the sake of the state, I have to get along with them. So I don't think it's a big problem. As far as states having insurgency problems, well, that we don't need the state's permission. The Constitution empowers us on certain matters, which is there in the 7th schedule, that which is concurrent list and that which is in the central list, and the center can intervene. I believe that we should take a very strong action backed by ground level changes on the economic conditions of the people. But I don't think improving the economic measure, the economic situation in these areas is precondition for exterminating terrorists or Maoists or whoever they are. I think that whoever doesn't abide by the Indian Constitution or doesn't accept the Indian Constitution is fit for extermination.
Sir, thank you very much. Real quick follow-up. I know you have to go, and it's related to this one. I know there is a conflict between, unfortunately, a conflict between a state government in Tamil Nadu and the central government on policy vis-a-vis Sri Lanka, and it's semi-legal question. I mean, is this government empowered to take really strict action, such as dismissing the government on such issues? How should such issues be tackled going forward?
Well, first of all, the Constitution 7th schedule says that foreign policy is the exclusive domain of the center. Now, the state wants to scream no problem. But if the state takes any action which is against the national interest of the country, then, in my opinion, we can invoke Article 256 and send a message to the state that you comply with the requirements of the Constitution, and if the state government refuses to do so, then Article 356, which follows, empowers you to dismiss that government and take over the government for a short period to hold fresh election. Now, I think somewhere along the way we got to show, and we did in Chandrasekhar's government when we dismissed the DMK government and eliminated the LCPE, and then for a long time the government of Tamil Nadu went against the central policy. It is only during the UPA that the Tamil Nadu government is behaving like this. I think we need to use the Constitution to put the state government. Some of these people, like V.K, they should be arrested under the National Security Act.
Thank you, Professor Swamy. We have with us Mr. C.P. Singh. He has a question for General Singh. Sir, if you can ask your question to General Singh, please go ahead.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. You were, as always, at your very best, and thank you for taking all our questions.
CP Singh, can you hear us? Please go ahead.
I think that there is some issue with the mic there. So in the meantime, Ajay, why don't you take on a few questions which came through on Google?
Sure. Thanks, Mehul. There is a question here for and this gentleman is asking about his name is Karthik S. He's asking SPA and the urban project have been stuck for 40 years. What can be done to move projects forward and even markets forward?
Ajay, your voice is breaking. If you can repeat the question, please.
Sure. The question was about LCA project. The Arjuna
project?
project. Mehul, why don't you take it on my side?
Okay, if you can just give me the question, please.
Yeah, the question is the Arjuna project are stuck for 40 years. What can be done to revive them?
Sir, it's not the Arjuna project, and that it's been not active for 40 years. What can be done about that?
You're talking of the Arjuna tank?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, Arjuna tank has come out. It has taken a lot of time for various reasons. And I feel that a lot of these issues, if we had held a system which was accountable, we could have resolved them much earlier. What has come out now is a product which is good in certain respects, but not good in certain other respects. And those deficiencies have to be taken care of. The army has accepted the project as it is, and army has also given its requirement for how many more of such battle tanks that we want. More than that, the army doesn't want, because it must fit the requirement. It at the moment fits the requirement only in certain areas. So certain different things will have to be done. And in any case, there's a project already on for a new main battle tank, which is with the DRDO. So you can't have two things going together. In fact, I'll put it differently. You know, we are the only country who have been running separate assembly lines for various things. We had what is called Vijayan, which was the Vickers tank. We had assembly line for it. Then came the T-55s. We had assembly line for it. Then came the T-72s. We had assembly line for it. Then came the T-90s. We have assembly line for it. We have the Arjuna. We have assembly line for it. Which country can afford it? Look at what the Russians did. Russians had a T-series tank so and so. Okay, so from that they started graduating T-34, T-35, and now they have made a T-90. Generally, lot of things are same. The chassis is generally not much of a difference. So you don't spend too much of money. You modify all other things, fit in better, electronics into it, make the gun better, make the power pack different, and you get a tank which is much superior to what you are producing. So somewhere we have to adopt a model, like I said earlier. It has to be a business model. It cannot be a social service model.
Thank you, sir. So another question which has come on Twitter, Dr. Punya Ashlok asks, what is your opinion on at least now having armed forces representation in the 7th Pay Commission? Is it not too late? He asks.
No, he's saying that army people should be in the pay commission.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have been asking for that, because who understands our requirements? If you are going to tell a person, look here, my man serves at 20,000 feet where he can't even breathe properly, people who have never been to those heights don't understand it. They don't understand the hardships. So service representatives must be there as part of the pay commission so that they can be guided properly. Now, this funny excuse that we get, look here, Justice Mathur has worked with the Armed Forces Tribunal, so he knows everything about the service. I think it is very specious argument. And it's only the ignorant who give such argument. We should have had an armed forces representative on the pay commission to guide the pay commission.
Well, sir, now we have you in the parliament, so I'm sure the armed forces will get adequate representation. So next up is Shantanu. He has a couple of questions which came on on Google. So Shantanu, go ahead. Shantanu, can you hear me?
General Sahab, my question, I think, during your speeches and during Modi's speeches, we heard a lot about tourism, that how can we increase the country's revenue through tourism. And apart from some states, we have not seen much work on the tourism. I know various beautiful places in India not even accessible easily. So, what's your take on that? What's the potential for tourism in India, and what are the 2-3 quick things that can be done?
Okay, Shantanu, very good question. And if you heard Modi ji in the various things, he has also talked of tourism as becoming a core sector which allows us to get dividends in terms of the capital that comes in. Let me start by saying that in any country, there are 3 things which are basics for progress. The first is infrastructure, second is education, and third is health. If you can take care of these 3 things, a lot of things can happen in a country. Problem in case of India is that besides these 3, where tourism is concerned, we haven't adequately marketed or even looked after some of the things that exist. I think we have got so much that we suffer from what is called the disease of anti. You think that you have got so much, people will come themselves and have a look at it. It's not so. You take small countries like let's take Singapore, take Hong Kong, you take any country, whatever they have, they've been able to look after it and ensure that a tourist friendly regime has been created where people can come, feel good, visit your places, and subscribe to your economy. Now, that is something which must take precedence in terms of how we deal with this particular sector.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
General. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Ajay, over to you. I think you have a lot of questions which came through Google Plus. Please go ahead.
All right, thanks, Mehul. So, General Singh, these are questions from Google Plus. I'm going to take this one from Mr. Samir Kumar, and this question has been asked otherwise also. It says BJP has already said in the manifesto that will have friendly relationships with neighbors, but we are going to have it on equal terms. Now, with Pakistan being under the influence of terrorists and being nuclear armed, do you think that requires a different stand? How do we neutralize that situation with respect to the nuclear threat from Pakistan and be still able to tackle the threat of terrorism?
Can you relay the question again, because I couldn't get half the words of that question.
Sure. The question is, does nuclear armed Pakistan present a special threat in terms of us being able to neutralize the threat of terror in the conventional methods, using conventional methods?
Ajay, all that I would say is there is tremendous space below an all-out nuclear conflict. Let's not forget about it. It is only fools who use nukes for war. And we need to be careful. Our nuclear doctrine caters for eventuality. We also have adequate infrastructure to cater for anything else that comes up. Now, where terrorism is concerned, it depends entirely on what a nation says. What is declaratory retribution policy of a nation? Have we put that in place so that others know that they can take advantage of you this far and not further than that? So it is a combination of the policy that you have. It's a combination of the way you ensure that these policies are implemented. It's a combination of what kind of a justice system you have so that such cases which are against the state and uh, are targeted at us are dealt with in a proper frame. It also is also a combination of the type of leadership that you have, which conveys a correct and firm message that you cannot meddle with us.
I would have to wrap this up. I've just been pinged from General Singh's end, from his office, that he needs to go now. He has a prior engagement. So thank you all for joining us on this hangout. Ajay, thank you. I know it's early morning on a long weekend. Thank you so much. Saurabh, thank you for your questions. Thank you for all the inputs on Twitter. Shantanu, as always, you were at your very best. General Singh, we don't have enough words to thank you. You always come online and give us so much time. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, all of you, for viewing this hangout. And we hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mehul. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We hope to see you as the defense minister. That's my personal wish. Whatever happens, I am really hoping that we see you as the defense minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.